Ciao everybody, my name is Joey and yay, it is autumn. I am so over the summer heat and I am so ready for a new season, and I want to kick things off with an autumnal project. So you see in my little basket here, I have been shopping in my own supplies, and I have pulled out all of these maple leaves, these Czech glass maple leaves in all the different colors. And so I don't know if I'll use them all, but I had, just went shopping in my collection because I do keep a separate organizer for leaf beads, all different types. It's a classic for me, and I love working with leaves all year round, really. But I am ushering in the autumn. I'm tired of the heat. I am definitely ready for a new season. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys something that I learned this summer on the Jesse James Beads summer camp classes with Jem Hawks. This is one of her specialties. She does these beaded trees, and in our class she was telling us that she had been making them for about 10 years or over 10 years, and it is so much fun. And so this is mine that I did. This might not be the best camera angle, but you'll see some pictures. I'll put those up like I always do. But I had the idea while I was working on this one to do my own version, and I learn a lot from Jem. She is a wire artist, and I do not feel like I'm graceful at all the way that she is with wire, but I get the job done. And I have some techniques that she doesn't use, and there's a lot of twisting in this project, and I have an easy way to do that to save your hands. I do it differently than she did, so I thought this would be a great video to kick off the fall. I want to change this up because I started to say, I digress. As I was working on the one with the amethyst chip beads, I started thinking that using Czech glass leaves or any kind of pressed glass leaves, little tiny leaves, to actually make it a tree. And I don't know if this is going to work out, but when I start sculpting my tree, I wanted to create some little spaces like this and maybe be able to hang earrings on it. I have a pair of, they're empty right now, but my lever back ear wires, and I was thinking, to make it like an earring tree. So I'm doing my one that I'm going to make in this video a little bit bigger. I'm going to make the base a little bit wider, and I think I'm going to try to get my tree a bit taller. And so we'll see. It may not work out to be an earring tree, but that was my idea, and I really love the idea of the Czech glass leaves. So I'm going to show you how, what Jem taught us, and then my own version, my own twist on things. So I'm using my Soft Flex craft wire, and you'll need a piece of 16 gauge wire. I was tempted to try 18 because 16 gauge is tough to work with, but you don't have to do that much with it. We're only making a base. And then you need a spool of 24 gauge wire. This project does use a lot of wire. And honestly, I don't know if you could really go down to 26. I feel like you could, but I'm going to stick with the 16 gauge and the 24 gauge. And the first thing we're going to do is prepare the base. So also, because this is 16 gauge wire, I would advise not using your finer jewelry tools on it. So I have my my snub nose pliers that are used for memory wire. If you're not familiar, memory wire is stainless steel cable that holds its shape, and it's really tough to bend and turn. And so these special pliers with this box joint really make you able to have control over the wire. But I also have a pair of pliers that's called Casual Comfort, and they have a big box joint as well, and I work with these pretty well too. I'll just show you the difference. These are my finer ones. That's my little finer ones, and they have a box joint too, but they're just not as sturdy. So just so you don't damage your tools, dig in your pliers and find something that's tough. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to work with my round nose pliers here. What we're going to do is when I cut my 16 gauge wire off of the little spool, there wasn't much left on it. It wasn't even a spool. I think it was a coil. I don't even remember. It was in my, I grabbed my 16 gauge out of my scrap bin of wire. I don't use a lot of 16 gauge wire. And it's like there are some places here where it's not perfectly round, but you don't want to straighten it out because we need a round base. And I'm going to kind of let this do what it was doing when it came off the spool. I'm going to come right here, and again, let me get some older cutters. I have kind of these junky cutters that I cut things with. Memory wire cutters would work as well, but I'm just going to come here and give myself two really clean blunt ends. That one looks good. Do this one as well. So there's nothing pointy or sharp. Yes, 16 gauge wire is tough for me. I don't have a lot of strength in my hand, so it's tough for me. I don't mind admitting. And so what we're going to do is do some coils. So the way my wire is sitting here, I'm going to do a spiral that goes toward the inside of the circle. Let me show you my sample again so you can see. This makes the base really strong. My little tree is in the way, but we're going to do kind of a large decorative spiral that's going to go toward the inside of the base, and then a smaller spiral, and it's just like a little foot, and it really, like, my tree is really stable. So we're going to do the inner one first. And so, like I said, snub nose pliers could be good here. I'm going to get a hold of my wire and just start a coil. And you know, this can be kind of open. Like, I'm used to making nice tight spirals for my head pins and things like that. But this can be quite open and free form. And so I'm just, you know, using the center of my round nose pliers and pushing it against my hand and just kind of pulling a little coil in there. So if you're doing this along with me, you know, take your time on this part before we move on. Fiddle with this a little bit. I will. I definitely want to get this really pretty, because when we start wrapping, you know, you won't be able to adjust this later. So I'm going to play with my little spiral and get it how I, you know, till I'm happy with the shape. Okay, I'm pretty happy with mine, and now I'm going to come to my other end and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And on this one, I just want to coil it back. I mean, you could make it more decorative if you want, but I really just want this one to be a tiny little coil and just get it back to where it's touching, so nothing is sharp. And so when you make this coil that goes to the inside, you are going to need to work in here a little bit to wire wrap. So you might want to, you know, when you're looking at your spiral, make sure you have that little bit of space there. And the other thing I'm going to do is take, I have this funny, like, it's bothering me that this isn't perfectly round, and it won't really show that much, honestly, because as you can see, we're going to do a lot of wrapping around the base, but I do want to kind of smooth that out. So a rubber mallet. Take my first piece of the 24 gauge wire, and this is more than I'll need. I just had like a little scrap actually in my scrap bag, and I'm going to kind of bring this around, get this around, bend this a little bit. And I just need to get it in position because I'm going to be wrapping right here to, you know, create the base. You guys don't have to have a bench block and a rubber mallet, but like I said, I want to make this really fiddle with this and get it just the way that I want it before I move on. Get it nice and round. And so I have these, and so instead of trying to do all this hand sculpting with this, I'm just doing it this way. So if you have your little bench block, so that's so much smoother and so much better. And I'm ready to move on and start the wrapping. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my 24 gauge wire. Let me make a little space. And I'm just going to come right here and just get a few wraps in. Let me go this way. Just get a few wraps in. Don't worry about them being too tight or too anything. Just get them in there, and I'll show you what I do because I don't stress over this part getting it started. I'm just going to come back after I have a few in there. I'm just going to come back with my plier here and just tidy them up this way with the back of my pliers. Give that a little pull. And I'm just going to try to hold on to this with my thumb and finger. And I'm going to come down into my little first spiral, the inner spiral. And you can really do any little pattern here that you want. But I'm going to go around my outer spiral like 3 times. And I need to go back, I need to finish up. It ended up being 4 times, but I need to finish up on the inside because I need to keep working here. And I'm just going to give this a tidy up. You can also, like if you have a pair of nylon jaw pliers, you can do this with the nylon jaw pliers so you don't mar the wire. Like any project, when you first get it started, it's a little difficult to hold on to everything, and that's when you're managing the longest length of wire. But just go slowly, pause when you need to pause, and make little corrections. So I'm right there, and now I'm going to come to wrap a couple of times around my inner wrap here, and I can see that I need a little more space. So I'm going to go ahead and coil this in just a tiny bit more, and I'm going to come, this time I'm going to come over everything. Just going to get a few wraps over everything, and it will start to be a little bit more secure. And then I'm going to come inside. I'll tighten up my wraps a little bit. And I'm going to do just maybe a few wraps on my outer core, on my outer wire. And you can really create like any pattern that you want. You can do 3, 3, 3. You really just want to make it pretty and secure this. I'm going to wrap this tail. I'm going to wrap my tail around this wire a little bit as well. And so now that I've done a few around the outer wire, I'm going to poke right through my inner spiral without kinking my wire and get a few more wraps in there. I don't want to kink my wire. have more here than I'll need. Let me take a little bit of this off so I don't have to pull it through. I'm going to do 3 more on my outer rim. And just before I move on, I'm just going to push everything together. So on this one, I did like 3 or 4 wraps. Let's say I started here, 3 or 4 wraps on this, and then went across 3 or 4 wraps, and then across. And so it was like a little zigzag. On this one, I've got it a little bit tighter, and it's quite pretty. I really like it. I like the way that it looks. So you can really kind of create any pattern you want. And I think since I have the space on the inside of my spiral, I mean, some of this is going to depend on how your spiral turns out, you know, because no 2 of these will be alike. So you just have to kind of cinch these together and make it decorative. So I'm going to try to get like 3 more wraps here on the inside of my spiral. And you can flatten the wire to your base. And so now I'm just going to wrap what's left around this base. And I just want to chase that little cut end. You don't want anything to be sharp on your base, on your tree really. And I still feel that a little bit, so I can get in here and chase it around. That's much better. So my little base is done, and already it's quite stable. And so what we're going to do next is cut all of our strands of the 24 gauge wire for the branches. And on this one I did 19. So there are 19 strands that go up into the trunk of my tree, and then gives you a lot to work with for sculpting the tree as you work on your twists. And the best way to do that, to figure out how long, now I want to make this tree a little bit taller than my sample. So the best way to do that is you need 5 times or even 6 times the length of your base. So if you just lay your wire across your base and count, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that can be your measurement for all of your strands. So you would need, you can do less, you can do 16, you can go more, 20, but just to give you an idea, that's about the thickness of the trunk of the tree with 19 strands twisting. So I want to do at least 19, maybe more. So let me get my strands all cut, and I will show you the next step. I'm going to use this as my measurement to cut all my other strands. Okay, I have completely lost count. I think there's 19 here. There might be 18. There might be 20. So if you're like me and you were just cutting away and you lost count, it's fine. You can always cut another one if you feel like, when we start adding these into our base, if you feel like you need it. But I feel pretty good about this, and I'm just gonna say here that if you have pets, if you have children, be careful, because you have all these fine gauge wires all cut So what I did is I have a craft cart behind me with a hook on it, and it's up pretty high, and I hung my strands on that as I was, because you're going to work with them one at a time. So I'm just going to do that. Just put them on that craft cart and just take one of the strands. And now we're going to go on the inside of our base that we just did and put these two ends, match these two ends up. And you'll see that if you give this a little pull, you kind of make a natural fold in the wire. It's hitting everything. So I went ahead that will happen. And put my first little spiral on here so that you could see. I'm twisting this so that it goes at least to the middle of my base and maybe even a little past, because that's where I want my tree trunk to come out of the middle. So my first wire is on, and I'm just going to scoot it around and take another wire. I'm going to do all of them. And here's where I said, like, when you're all done adding in the ones you've cut, if you feel like you need a couple more, you can very easily cut a couple more. So I'm going to do the same thing, just kind of pull so that I'm making that first little bend, and I'm going to get a couple of wraps in before I start twisting. So just like that, just go around a couple of times with the wires. When you're all done and you're gathering these and starting to sculpt your tree, it's really pretty to have a few wraps around the base. I'll show you. I'll pull my sample in again and show you what I mean. Just going to get them like that. And the one that I already have on here, just kind of manage it. And then for me, the twisting, I don't try to do this with my fingers. I get my nylon jaw pliers and I start my twist right down here near the base. And I'm going to actually turn my ring. And I will say here, this is so much easier when you're not trying to stay under a camera lens. The wire is hitting my light, it's hitting the camera, it's grabbing everything. When I did my sample, I stood up for part of the time. I backed my chair away from my work surface, and it was much faster. I got a nice rhythm, but I'm trying to stay under the camera lens so that you can see the process a little bit. So here's, what it looks like. I am saving my hands by doing this way with the nylon jaw pliers and turning my base. You can sit and go like this, but for me, if I were to twist like that for, the time it takes to get all of these on, I would be in pain afterwards. So this is my method for getting these twists in here. And then you can, when you're all done, you can always come back and zhuzh your little wraps. But let me pull in my sample again. See, when you do these little when you do a few little wraps before you start twisting, it looks really pretty along your base of your finished tree. And so I'm just going to pull that one out of the way, and I'll hold on to all of these together. And again, when I'm done twisting, I just want to make sure that my twist is going to at least reach the center of my base. And I go a little bit beyond because I want to twist that up. So most of the time I've been twisting so that it reaches across the base, because this is going to come together to form the tree trunk, if you can see in there in the middle of all my beads. And I'm going to keep going and get them all done, get all these wires one at a time. This is why I put them on a little hook behind me to keep them, off the floor and away from kids and pets. And it's that same process until you get I think anywhere between 16 and 20 wires. And of course that also is adjustable, and it also depends on how wide you made your base. So I'm going to get a couple of wraps in, and then bring those wires back together on the outside of my ring and just zhuzh them together. And so like I said, my twisting method is to save my hands, I don't try to do this with my fingers. There is also a twisting tool for jewelers, and I have that tool, and I think that could even work, but I had a good time doing this by hand, and I got a pretty good result with my using my nylon jaw pliers. So as you add on strands, you can get a hold of your strands like I'm doing over here. Get a hold of your strands, and again, I'm up close to my table and underneath the camera lens, so that's giving me problems. Once I'm finished showing you what to do, I'm going to add in the rest of my strands off camera, of course, because you don't need to sit and watch me twist for an hour, but it's much easier when you're not under a camera lens. You guys will have a much better time doing this. And so I am I'm holding my tension not too tight with this hand, and I am gently pulling as I twist. And then I can pause there and see I've pretty much reached across my circle. And so the other thing you might want to check, like I know that 24 gauge wire, it works of course on a single one of my leaf beads, but I can't fit 2 wires in here. So that's also why you want to stop twisting. Like it goes in part of the way, but it doesn't want to go through. So when I have my trunk and I start to separate these out as branches, I'm going to need individual wires to put my leaf beads on, the same way that I used individual wires to feed on the chip beads. And so I have to say too, I know this looks daunting, but it's very forgiving. It's a very organic, it's very free form. If you look in nature, no 2 trees are alike, and you never look at a tree and go, okay, that's wrong, because it's not wrong. It's beautiful, it's nature, and this project is the same way. Your twists and your sculpting and where you separate out your branches, and I'll show you, like there's a little method for getting this center like that, but you really can't mess this up, and I really enjoyed it. I really think it's a wonderful project, and what a gift this would make for someone, especially if they have a favorite gemstone. I'm trying this one with leaves, but I have 3 on already, and I'm going to finish the rest of my stack and see how I feel about the thickness of it, and I will pop back in. I'm going to back my chair away from the camera and get these done a lot more efficiently than trying to do this underneath the camera lens. This is my 10th branch. I was calling it strands, but my 10th wire, and I just wanted to pop back in and kind of show you what my tree is looking like at this point. And also it occurred to me, now this hasn't happened to me yet, but it occurred to me that in twisting, finer gauge wire, if you're a tight twister, you could snap a wire here and there. And I wanted to say that doesn't matter. Don't freak out. It's fine. If you twist and like a wire gets overly twisted and snaps, you can just blend it right in with your main trunk. So I wanted to show you what 10 little branchy things kind of look like. And I've been coiling for about 20 minutes, I think, and I am more than halfway done. So it looks like that. I'm just twisting and then kind of bringing it around and holding the whole thing as I twist and letting my tools do the work for me. And I'm, more than halfway done. So it's really not, it's not as labor intensive as it might seem. Just going to grab my next wire and keep going. And I've been taking my time to get a few wraps really neatly around the edge. As I showed you at the end, I think that matters. So I also wanted to mention, as far as determining how far up your wire to twist, the further you twist your wire, the taller your tree is going to be. So in other words, we're going to be bringing all of these wires toward the center. And if you have only twisted like to the center of your tree, or, you know, across this circumference, when you start to twist those in the middle, you're going to have a shorter tree trunk. And if you twist a little bit more and go past the circumference, then when you start to twist, you'll have a taller tree, if that makes sense. And so for me, I'm trying to twist a little bit past my base here, because if I can use this to maybe hang earrings on, you know, so I do want a little bit taller tree. I'm going for a little bit taller tree. I'm not sure how this is going to work out, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to want to hang earrings on it because of all my Czech glass leaves, but that was at least the beginning of my design idea. So I am going to keep going. I just wanted to share like some of these things. I'm not super experienced at making these trees, but I felt like it was a really fun, easy project. And, you know, I just felt like it was something that if you want to start playing with wire, this is one that you really just can't get it wrong, because it's extremely organic. And even if I sat and did 20 of these with the same steps that I'm showing you, they would all look completely different. And so those are the kind of wire working projects that you want to start with when you start getting familiar with wire working. And also I just want to say, as far as the wire that you choose, the Softflex wire is not a German style half hard wire. It's a craft wire. You can harden it by whacking it with your rubber mallet. You can work harden it, but it's a good one for this because you don't want like a super hard wire for all this twisting. Another one that works really well is Parawire. That works really well for this project. So, you know, go into your stash if you can, and but if you're going to buy some wire for this project, that would be my advice. So I am just you know, starting out like I've been showing you with a few neat wraps. Wire, it's grabbing everything, but a few neat wraps on my frame, and even that, you know, is really subjective. But I've been doing that because at the end, that looks really pretty around the perimeter to have like those few wraps all the way around your tree. So, so that's what I've been doing. But again, you make this your own. If you're liking the idea of this project, you make this your own. But like I said, under the camera lens, this is grabbing everything. I am doing so much better when I pause filming and roll my chair back a little bit away from my table. But that's, I'm going to keep going, and I'll be back, and we'll start being tree sculptors when I come back. Okay, this is what I have. And so now I'm going to move my branches, well, they're roots at this point, all of these little roots. I'm going to move them around so that they're like evenly dispersed around my base of my tree. Just slide them around. So again, I came off the edge of my table, and this is actually the top of my tree. I turned it this way so that I could you know, get everything going toward the center. So this is for sure going to hit the camera lens, but that's kind of what I have at this point. And these spaces here, don't worry about them too much, because depending on how tight you wind, they may always be a little bit flexible, but you have opportunities from here on to you know, to adjust those. So I'm going to gather up everything in the middle, about in the middle of my base. Now if you get offset, you know, that's okay, because again, tree trunks and the roots, like they you know, they just grow in all different directions. And if you get really offset where you're like leaning, you know, you can turn this into sort of a bonsai tree. Like this is really, it's really art, and I just love it. And so here again, I use my nylon jaw pliers because twisting all of this with my hands is a little hard on my hands. I might get it started with my hands. But this is your main tree trunk, and so that's about as much as I can do. I'm going to get in here with my nylon jaw pliers. That really helped me. And I'm just going to get a good twist. And like I said on mine, I wanted my tree to get a little bit taller than my other one. So I'm just going to get a twist in here. And I'm going to stop. These are all very straight right now, but I'm going to stop twisting and play a little bit. That twisting does tighten. It does tighten, you know, everything around the base. And I don't think that I want just a single tree trunk. Like you could do a single tree trunk if you want to, but I think I want to branch these out now. So I'm going to grab a few of my wires or my branches, separate them out. And I'm going to do some separate twisting. This is where the sculpting kind of comes into play. You can decide the thickness. So on this little group right here, I'm going to bundle these that I just pulled out. I'm going to bundle these together and twist them into like another branch of my tree. And again, I know people that do all of this with their fingers, but for me, my nylon jaw pliers are invaluable for this. Okay, and I'm going to do some more. I'm going to pull out another bunch, so you can decide. Like I'll show you my sample again. I did it 3 times across the bottom of this tree, and let's see how I feel about this one. So I'm going to get right here and twist this little branch area. And again, under the camera, this is like feels almost impossible, honestly. This is so much easier when you're not trying to film yourself doing it. I'm going to just pull out of the camera and twist this. Here's what my sculpture is looking like. Now, I like my base to be kind of domed a little bit, so you can come underneath and push these roots. You know, you can push them up so that it's not so flat. And when I get finished with everything, I will fiddle with that some more. But also right now, everything is looking really straight to me. So I want it to look like roots. So I'm going to come in here and put some twists in my roots with my pliers. And you can always come back and do this, you know, work on this some more. You can play with this until you have it just right. But that looks a lot better. It looks a lot more root-like. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I may come back and make more adjustments. And then from here, I have like 3 main branches on my tree, and I'm going to separate them out even a little bit further. So I'm going to come out here kind of toward the end and untwist a few to make even more little branches. So I'm just going to get, this is where you become like a sculptor at this point. So from this point, like, I'm really happy with the way the base of my tree looks. And now that you can see where you're going, you can decide if you want to trim some of your wires or if you want to continue twisting and make, you know, kind of if you want to add branches. So you just want to get to where you're happy with your kind of your base, and then you can let go of some of the wires that are maybe a little bit too long. And that's what I'm going to do because I'm really happy with my base. So I'm going to come here and lose a little bit of these wires just to make it easier for what I want to do, because my twisting of my main tree is basically done. Okay, it's a little bit more manageable, and so now I'm going to start separating my wires to get ready to start adding leaves in my tree. And it's really simple. I'm just going to take one of my Czech glass leaves and feed it down. And then from here, let me show you the two different ways. You can make your stopper like do little spirals, or you can do little coils like that. On this one, I mixed it up. I liked both because I thought it looked like the different little things on a tree, buds and little curly cues. So you can decide which way you like it the best. Let's see, let me decide if I have to think about how I want to do this one. A little spiral. So I'm going to snip right here and just come with my round nose plier, not a spiral, a coil I meant to say. And I'm just going to make a little coil and just coil right down to my leaf. Just like that, and just, you know, make sure that that little tail is tucked in. So I'm just going to do like a little coil, and I may decide to mix it up on this one too. And then I can come here, like if you want to, you can twist a little bit more and then separate these branches out here. But I think I'm going to come right here, and I'm also going to put my leaves on in different directions because I want it to look like an autumn tree. So like if I feel like that's too close, and that's what I wasn't sure about with the leaves. So I think I am going to do a little bit more twisting before I separate my branches again. So I'm going to come, I see this one right here, I'm going to come get this one out of the bundle. And I'll do a little twist with these three. Get in here and twist 3 more branches. The leaves won't get bunched up next to each other. So see what that did? Then I can put my leaf, then if I want to twist these two and then separate them again, that will put my little leaf beads in, you know, separate, so they're not, I mean, of course that's up to the look that you want. You're the tree designer, so if you want them all in like really dense bunches, then you won't need to do as much twisting. But I'm just going to do that little coil and tighten it, and I think I will do, I think I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more leaves here. Okay, I am going to keep going like that, twisting and separating out my branches. Like, I think I'll put a brown leaf right here, and I'm just going to keep going like that until I have all my leaves on my tree, and I will check back in and show you my progress. Okay, I am so crazy over this tree, and as I was sitting here adding my leaves to my tree, I started thinking, oh my goodness, I need to get some little Czech glass flowers and do a blooming tree next. And then I started thinking, I made my branches here like some a little bit thick and kind of going off to the side so that I could hang earrings if I want to use this as a little bit of a, like an earring holder, or put my, lay a ring on here. But then I started thinking, oh my goodness, acorn charms. So I went into my stash and I have some little acorn charms and some little pine cone charms, and even I found this cute little owl charm. And so as my tree, as you go around, there are little acorns and pine cones and owls in the tree. And I just went into my stash and I thought, like, I have this little clay bird, he could go in. These Czech glass owls would be so cute for an autumn tree. I had these little birds. Those of you that saw my bird cage earrings, I had used some of these birds to hang inside the earrings, and I have so many
These are
left
just
over.
little
Charms from my stash. And I even thought, if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I love to do little wire bird nests and make like components for bracelets and necklaces. And wouldn't like a little wire bird nest with bird eggs be so cute? So I think that in the spring I'm gonna do a tree with a little bird nest and eggs and flowers blooming in the tree. I've already decided on my next project, but this one is amazing for the autumn, for my first true autumn project to kick off autumn. I love it. It really does look like a tree that the leaves are falling off and getting ready to go into the next season. And I had so much fun doing this. It's like you can't get it wrong. It's extremely forgiving with the twisting and your placement of your leaves and all. It's just, how you want to do it. And if you want to make it more full, the chip beads were a really great bead for giving a lot of texture to the branches and like making it really full. So this is a super fun project. I hope you guys will give it a try. And my thanks to Jem Hawks for a fabulous class during the Jesse James Beads summer camp. I learned a lot and I was very inspired. As you can see, I have taken this design to a whole nother direction and done my own thing, and I hope you guys will do the same. And I would love to hear from you if you give this a try. Leave me a message. As always, if you tap more underneath the video title, there's a full description box, and anything that I can provide links to when I edit, I will do that for you guys. And I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and tap the bell notification. It's such a nice way to support my work. And if you like what I'm creating here, share my channel with a friend. That would be so sweet of you. I thank you all so much, and happy fall to everyone. I'm super excited to be going into autumn, and I think this was such a great project to kick it off. Thanks everybody. See you in the next video.